as Cam said, my name's Dean Stroud from Cardiff University. I was responsible with my team, whose names are on the slide, for work package two and the human factors of the ALCHIMIA project. And today I'm going to be speaking to you about what observations we might make from the ALCHIMIA project on AI human collaborations. Essentially what we offer is an assessment of ALCHIMIA insertion based on worker interpretations of the platform. More generally, its alignment with industry and EU standards on AI design and insertion. So in view of what observations we might make, I begin with the question of what are the challenges and opportunities emerging from human and AI collaboration, and what are often termed in projects such as ALCHIMIA, the human factors. In this presentation, so we're going to explore some of the implications for work and workers emerging from AI insertion, to understand what barriers need to be overcome and what opportunities might develop, which may be useful for those wanting to understand the implications of AI insertion for workers in the manufacturing workplace. So first, we feel it necessary to understand what is informing the framing of human factors in the ALCHIMIA project. We look across this at the three areas. One is understanding the shift in technological transition from the technologically determinist approaches of Industry 4.0. So this incorporates industry's adoption of the digital tools of things like cyber physical systems, Internet of Things, big data, and of course AI and other technologies as well. And from this to Industry 5.0. with its emphasis on human centeredness of manufacturing, with a focus on worker well-being, resilience and sustainability as new technologies are designed and implemented. On AI specifically, we keep in mind that ALCHIMIA is a form of artificial narrow intelligence, and so likely as a form of machine learning to work mostly in the background. But we must still understand that workers play an active role in the implementation and use of technology or technological innovation. Out of this, there's also should be an acknowledgement of skills and training needs, and our particular focus in this project, particularly social scientists and not technologists, is around transversal skills or soft skills, which I'll say more on later. And finally, it's important to note that the project incorporates international standards of human-centered design and aims to include workers and production-related management's perspectives as users of ALCHIMIA in the design of ALCHIMIA. And a further focus on the EU's high-level expert group and their assessment list for trustworthy artificial intelligence, or what is known as ALTI. And in the ALCHIMIA project, we aimed for alignment with ALTI as a key objective of the project. So with all this in mind, in terms of that framing, we completed human factor research at the plants involved in France, Italy, Poland, and Spain. The first phase being the ex-ante phase being during 2023, and this was on the anticipated impacts of ALCHIMIA. So speaking to workers about those, what they anticipated ALCHIMIA would mean for their work. We returned last week to France, and the week before that to Italy to conduct the post research, and so to evaluate ALCHIMIA following its deployment. We're at present conducting the analysis of that data, so I can't speak to that data in this particular presentation. Our research overall in terms of methodology involved interviews with workers, production leads and local managements. We also conducted surveys with a wider range of workers, those expected to come into contact with ALCHIMIA in some kind of way. As well as we had tours of the plants that we visited, where we discussed processes and spoke with workers at their workstations about the what ALCHIMIA might mean for their work. So I'll come to some of the key observations now from the first stage of the research. First, we looked at the optimization of processes and the implications of change to work processes of something like ALCHIMIA being inserted. Here we identified some of the potential for the intensification of work through things like greater maintenance demands and data labor, whereas others anticipated the need for fewer checks and intervention points in processes, meaning that work would become de-intensified. So we had a mixed response on whether the challenge of intensified work might follow, or whether there would be an opportunity for something like ALCHIMIA to actually free workers up for other tasks. Another question is whether skilled workers' capacities will become augmented. There were two streams of thinking here as well. Workers might become de-skilled, and that cognitive complacency might set in as ALCHIMIA makes decisions for them, or they become too reliant on ALCHIMIA to make decisions. And so workers' capacities become diminished. Others anticipated the need for upskilling and a widening of skills profiles, particularly in transversal skills, as I said, I'll come to shortly. So again, a mixed response whether workers will be de or upskilled. And finally, we came to the blurring of accountability for decision making. Potentially, ALCHIMIA will be making decisions on behalf of workers, or could be seen to be used in that way, and that may reduce their agency in the fairness control. This may lead to de-skilling in critical thinking and decision making, but also blur accountability for any decisions that are made. So the question is, does ALCHIMIA remain a decision support system, or do workers come to rely on it to make decisions, just as in the sense that they become overly reliant on it rather than just using it as a support? And if so, in that balance, where does accountability rest for the decisions they have made? So again, an unclear picture, mixed responses, which we're hoping to learn more about once we process the data from the ex post evaluation. So those, we may get some more detail on those, that level of complexity that there is in the initial findings. I now want to move on to what was identified, particularly with regard to the skill needs that emerged, which I mentioned in discussion of the first part of the data. So what was anticipated was not any real shift in technical skills resulting from ALCHIMIA and new demands in that sense, but AI and digital technologies were identified to contribute perhaps to a greater reliance on transversal or soft skills. So in this, having been part of another larger project called the European Steel Skills Agenda on skill needs for the steel industry and forecasts of that, we used that project's account of steel industry skill needs to inform our analysis, identifying 5 transversal skill sets which disaggregate to particular areas of skills. So this is all presented on the slide in the figure there. And these were found to map well onto our research account when workers anticipated the insertion of AI and what emerged in terms of skills related needs. And the figure on the slide sets out the main areas of transversal skills. So here I'm talking about the personal, the social, the methodological, the digital, and the environmental. So what might be of particular interest is how we transferred that into an analysis of what training needs are emerging. And what we have here is informed by thinking that we have 3 different pillars of training to inform good practice with regard to the development of training programs for AI insertion. Pillar 1 offers general transversal skills required for the wider digital transformation of companies. So it's a response to the general skills requirements of the wider workforce arising out of the need to support the digital and environmental transformation of the metallurgical industry. Pillar 2 focuses on specific transversal competence requirements arising from the integration of the ALCHIMIA system into the specific production contexts. It comes out of an empirical analysis of actual production processes and the anticipated effects of the system on existing tasks and jobs across the sites that will be visited. And our analysis suggests that the AI insertion and its subsequent use will only specifically impact on a few tasks and therefore only affect a limited number of staff in very particular and quite limited ways. And Pillar 3 reflects transversal competence requirements related to the operation of ALCHIMIA specifically. And our current understanding of how the final deployable systems will be operated suggests at least 3 aspects related to specific competence requirements, which all relate to digital transversal competencies, as you could have seen from this slide previously, where it talks about information and data literacy, safety, and problem solving. So finally, I come to my summary, and in summary, our social science research methodology has helped us understand the anticipated implications of ALCHIMIA insertion. And when the analysis is completed, the ex post, we will know more about the implications of its deployment for workers. As I've discussed, we have quite a mixed picture on both opportunities and challenges. I've already detailed those, so I won't go into detail again. But what's interesting here, I think, as I mentioned earlier on in the presentation, is that we know in the design and insertion of ALCHIMIA and its development, we've found alignment with the standards of human-centered design. We've made recommendations for that from our first deliverable, and those have been followed. And so workers and social science perspectives have been included in ALCHIMIA. And the development of the platform also finds alignment with the ALTI principles. We also identified skills and training needs from the insertion of AI. These are particularly focused on transversal skills development, as I've mentioned, and across training might be developed across 3 different pillars, is our suggestion. And more detail on all of this can be found in our deliverables, which are available on the ALCHIMIA project website. And you're welcome to contact me directly. My webpage, the university's there, and also my email. And I'm happy to field any inquiries you might have. And with that, I shall end things, Carmen.